happened, and I kind of came out of the fog of that experience. I then had to kind of pick up my life and go on, and I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wasn't going to have a lot of time. And one thing that finding your partner dead in your apartment with the same illness that you have is the effect that it has on you is that you're certain you're going to, you know what's going to happen to you. I mean, there's a very vivid picture of it. And it's like, so I knew that I had, a year, maybe two left, and what am I going to do with my life? I just got a degree in graphic design. My life is kind of opening up in one part, but the other part is kind of going down the tube. So it was like this kind of bizarre kind of paradox, I guess, or conflict. It was just strange. So it was a hard time for me for a number of months. And but eventually I kind of came out of it. And the nice thing is I wasn't feeling ill. I mean, psychologically I was pretty screwed up. I mean, I was very, depressed one day and great the next kind of thing. But I was here, and I felt relatively well. But there was this kind of big, huge fear, right, laying on my shoulder here that I was gonna, not survive this thing. And so how do you plan your life, So it was one of those things that was just, a process I had to work through, basically. And so over the course of the next, 6 months or so, I, kind of came out of my, fog and just moved on with my life. I started doing graphic design, and I was doing it independently as a freelance artist. And, was enjoying it well enough, and I started dating again, and I met my partner, David, who we're still together today. Actually, it's 20 years now. And he's HIV negative, and was, when we met, and he knew about my illness right away, because I was actually doing talks much like this in different parishes and things around Western Washington, and he was a member of one of the parishes I went to. That's kind of how we met originally. But so we got together, and one thing I knew for sure was that, I was really excited about this new relationship, and I had, kind of gone through this experience that was really devastating for me, and I also knew that I had a limited time left, and so I was like, you know what, I gotta live, man, I mean, I can't be burdened by, bad, just worries, kind of common worries that people have, like, what kind of work am I going to do, I'm worried about money, I just like, I had a little bit of money from the real estate, and I said, I'm just going to spend it, what do I need it, right? So I've been working so long for previous years that we hadn't had a vacation in 8 or 9 years, so when I met David, I said, do you want to go traveling, and he's like, yeah, so we started traveling all over the place. Went to Europe, we went to Italy, we went all over the place. Had a great time. Saw a lot of the world I wanted to do. I did a lot of the kind of things I wanted to do. We went to a lot of places even here in the country, and I just kind of was having fun, and trying to, live life to the fullest, as they say, And for me, what that meant was, not getting too caught up in my mind around fear, not letting fear of what was going to happen to me derail the life that I had right then. And it was then when I started to realize how important it is to kind of not let your mind completely run your life. I really felt like I needed to, live each day like it was a new day and focus on that instead of worrying about what may or may not happen. So a few years went by, things were okay. I mean, my health was a little rickety. I then developed KS cancer as well, like my partner Tom had, and so I had lesions on my body and things in really bizarre places, in my forehead and my torso and all this kind of thing. And when it got to a certain point where it was bad enough, they started doing radiation therapy, and when that didn't work, they did chemotherapy, and I was in a real aggressive chemotherapy treatment for a number of months. And it eradicated it. I mean, I went into remission completely, and I haven't had it since, and that was, 15 years ago. So I was really fortunate around that. But one thing that AIDS does is it just kind of wears you down, I mean, there's just a lot of, our immune system really provides a lot of our energy and a lot of our strength and all the rest of it, and so as your immune system kind of gets worse and worse, and mine was, when I was diagnosed, I had 162 T cells. And over the course of the next few years, they dwindled down to 6 T cells. I mean, they all had names, I mean, it was just, stay with me, man, stay with me, I was just like, and so, I was I was really trying to, stay well, but, it just wasn't working all that well because there were no drugs. The only drug that we went on was, for a little while, we went on AZT. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you folks, but there was a drug that they kind of dusted off this old medication they tried on cancer patients back in the 40s. And they said, well, let's throw this at them and see if it works, And so they gave us these doses of AZT that were about 6 times the amount that they eventually learned that was okay, because we were taking 1,200 milligrams a day. And they found out 3 or 4 years later that 200 milligrams was the maximum you could take and it not be toxic to your system. So, and Tom and I, because he was still alive when he was taking those, we could feel it. We took those medications and it was bad. It was like, we used to call it, drinking Drano. It was just, would get into your system and it was just, did not feel good, So I just decided then after about a month of that I was not going to live my last days or weeks or months or years feeling that way. If that's what it's going to take for me to stay alive, I don't want to live that long. So we got off the medications altogether, which ended up being a smart move in the end. I was just kind of going along without medications. I was trying to eat right, do those kind of things, but I was just kind of, steadily going down.